The 700cc Megalodon is back. I know it's been a while since our last episode, and I know you guys have been eagerly awaiting the next sighting of our two-stroke monster. So to say thank you for your patience, we're going to start off this episode with the beast's first proper rip.
It don't like to turn, boys, it does not like to turn. Oh, the vibrations on this mofo. Yee-hoo-hoo! Oh my God, what a feeling! So what's up, guys? My name's Max. This is 999 Laser, and I'm on board the Megalodon 700cc two-stroke dirt bike. Keep it going. Giving it its first proper shakedown before we head to the track in anger. It's been a while since our last episode, but that does not mean we haven't been busy. So let me throw it back to a couple of weeks ago and our first dyno runs.
What's up, guys? My name's Max. This is 999 Laser, and as you can see, the Megalodon 700cc two-stroke dirt bike is hooked up to the dyno, and in this episode we're going to get it dialed in and get some numbers. Before that though, let me remind you of the story so far. If you're watching this, you may know that we are on a mission to build the world's fastest two-stroke dirt bike. We began by picking up a monster 700cc motor and a frame to squeeze her in. I then travelled the country picking up parts and essentials to turn our bike into something truly special. After that, I unleashed our bonkers bike builder and let him work his magic. Somehow, on God's green earth, Chris managed to squeeze 700 cc's of madness into our chassis. And the last time you saw us, we had just fired the beast into life for the very first time. Right, so before we take the Megalodon over to Roland's workshop to use his dyno, obviously I've got to get it clean from the little rip we had down at, on the field a few seconds ago. So I'm using the trusty Muck-Off jet wash, and of course you guys know this whole project has been sponsored by Muck-Off. It wouldn't have been possible without them. I just wouldn't have had the confidence to pull the trigger on this mental build without the support of Muck-Off. So if you've enjoyed these videos, if you're loving the Megalodon, say a big thank you to Muck-Off by stocking up on your essentials next time you need any products to clean, protect or lube your motorcycle. So another big thank you goes to Muck-Off for supporting the project and letting us rip on the Megalodon. Cheers guys, back to work. So to start things off, we are rewinding the calendar to way before my little joyride. It's August and the height of summer. We've just arrived at Hardcore Racing for what we thought would be a quick little dyno session. Little did we know, it was the start of quite the story. Right, so we're here at Hardcore Racing today to borrow his dyno for the beast. we're going to get her on there. We're going to try and get it dialed in, get the carburation right, get the fueling right, and just make sure she's ready to roll once we take her to the track. So let's head inside, see Roland, see the main man. Okay, so we're in the Hardcore Racing Workshop with Roland, who you've already seen in the series a couple of episodes ago. We used that Vapor Blaster machine to get the swing arm all cleaned up. But today, this morning, we're back here to borrow his dyno to see what the Megalodon runs like. Roland, what is the plan this morning? Obviously, the engine's pretty much brand new, new piston and everything, so we don't want to rag her too hard, do we?
No, we're not up for like a full power run, but the main thing we're looking to do is to put the AF meter up the exhaust and just get a feel for it and make sure the jetting's correct before we take it to the track.
Yeah, so we're just going to get her fueled right, get her running right before we let her rip later on.
Yeah. You have to be a little bit careful because the fueling that you'd get on the dyno as such, which would be something you'd set up and potentially on a road bike, would be correct then to go on the road. It's not the same with particularly two-stroke motocross bikes, and it takes a little bit of trial and error to be up to speed and know what is correct on the dyno will actually work on the track. So yeah, we're going to just go through that first.
Yeah, so we're not going to get like the big massive numbers that we might get later on, but we'll get an idea of what she's putting out. Yeah,
we'll get a live reading on what's going on, but the main thing is what the sniffer's going to tell us out the exhaust pipe rather than we've got this horsepower.
And your dyno then, you've had it for a while, haven't you?
Yeah, this one I've had it since, I think probably 8-9 years now, and it's been absolutely brilliant, yeah.
And you can, if you want to, anyone watching wants to come and you can hire the dyno and
they can,
come and use it.
Yeah, we can do what we're doing here today through to, just testing, see if your engine's performing as you expect it to, having had it tuned or whatever. Yeah.
All right, so let's get it fired up. Let's get on the dyno. So before we get going, we just need to change this wheel. Obviously, that's a motocross tire, dirt tire, and this little roller here will eat that for breakfast, so we don't want rubber flying around, so we're going to change it for one of these, look. Right, so the slick tyre is on now, a little bit of faffing about. We had to just change sprockets over because we've got a bigger sprocket on our wheel so we just had a bit of faffing about to get it on, but we're ready to roll now. Right, so I'm just putting my boots on, ready to start it, because you definitely do not want to try and kick this over without a good pair of motocross boots on. A, because of the razor sharp Raptor foot pegs that we got, and B, a kickback could be quite savage on a 700cc two-stroke, as you can imagine. But I tell you what's quite funny, since it was last week that we was at Chris's workshop and we got it fired up for the first time, and it's like a drug. The only thing I've been able to think about since that day was starting it again. It's hooked me already, and all I've done is started it up and then it down the lane. So I've been looking forward to it all weekend, just coming here and kicking it over once again. So get the boots on, we'll get her rolling. My excitement for starting the monster soon dissipated after about the 4th or 5th kick. I'm still getting my head around the knack for starting her. But this was great practice. So even before we clicked the beast into gear, we knew she wasn't happy and that we had work to do. It was going to be a long day. So after a hard fought 20 minutes getting her started, we finally got her onto the dyno, onto the rolling road, and Roland started the process, and straight away, even before he clicked it into gear, he knew it was running too lean, so he's run over to try and get some bigger jets to fix that problem. So hopefully Roland will return any second now with some bigger jets.
I suspect we actually need to change the emulsion tube, but...
What's the emulsion tube?
That's the actual tube the needle sits in, so that's the needle jet tube. So you go bigger and bigger on this, but if the needle jet tube then becomes the controlling factor,
It's restricted it.
Yeah, so that becomes a more restricting factor than the jet. So I could put a 4mm through this. It won't matter if the emulsion tube, or the jet needle jet as it's called in modern terms, isn't big enough.
So you can change that part?
You can, yeah. But that's the next stage. But we'll stick this in it, see if that helps. Right, okay, so we've gone very rich on the main, and no, it really didn't like that, so we're now backing off and going lean. It's always a good idea with conflicting information just to go a bit richer and see if the symptoms that you're looking at actually get worse, and in this case it did, so we've backed it off a little bit. We're not going to break it today, so we're just going to try some few bits and pieces. I suspect we're going to need to change the needle jet, but for now we're work in progress.
As you've just seen and heard, she still wasn't sounding very happy at all. After playing around with the jetting to no avail, we were left scratching our heads. And with time in the day running out, we decided to call it quits and come back to it with fresh heads. One of the biggest challenges with this build is the air intake. The Husselberg frame has a built-in airbox, but our engine is just too big to make this work. For a quick fix, we tried a foam filter direct to the carb, with the goal of getting the bike running. But this turned out to be the problem. Right, so day 2 in the workshop, in Roland's workshop here. We was unsuccessful last time. We didn't get the bike running how we wanted to, and then we ran out of time, so we had to call it a day. And then since then, work's been busy, life's just been really hectic the last few days, so it's been just over a week since we was last here in the workshop. But we've got the slick on, I've got my boots on. Well, let's get it started up, back on the dyno, and try and get the beast running right. So last time we was here, you saw the bike wasn't running right, and we expect or suspect maybe that it might be because of the lack of an airbox. We just had the filter on there, so we're taking the filter off and we're going to try and get some more air in there today, and hopefully that will solve our problems. But also we're changing some of the fueling. So what are we actually doing here? Making it leaner. Roland says we're going to lean it a little bit off on the needle, so it's too rich basically last time. Yeah. So that's what Roland's doing now. So we removed the air filter completely, and this was the result. Much happier Megalodon.
We need to go down big time on the main now.
Oh really?
Yeah.
But that's a massive difference to last time, isn't it?
It's huge.
And that's the filter, right?
It could be the needle, could be everything, but certainly we're a lot cleaner than what we were.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. You got 50 horsepower, so now we've got about another 40 to find. Yeah. On this dyno, to be honest, you get to 80, you're doing well, because it does show low figures.
So Roland reckons on his dyno, a CR500 puts out about 45 horsepower. And we've just clocked 50 on the Megalodon first run out, or first run today. So pretty pleased with that. We're already within the ballpark of the CR500, but we're aiming much higher than that. So
you look like Mickey Mouse.
We're going to change some settings.
Everybody's dyno is just an inertia figure. So you've got an inertia of the wheel against acceleration of that inertia of the wheel and its inertia. So every one of them is slightly different depending on those settings. So it is just a mathematical calculation, and mine just happens to be set up from the manufacturer and recalibrated from the manufacturer to show slightly lower figures than other people's.
So the truest comparison would be comparing horsepower between bikes on the same dyno is the best way to do it.
Yeah, preferably on the same day.
Yeah, on the same day.
Yeah.
Yeah. People say between the what was it at the back wheel, what was it at the crank? We're measuring back wheel.
Yeah.
And what, just explain the difference between that?
Well, one, you haven't got the loss of horsepower through driving a chain and running a wheel and through the transmission. At the crankshaft, yes, it's a truer figure which reflects the actual performance of what the piston and the crankshaft's producing. Yeah.
But in a sense, it's not a true figure because that's not what you're putting down on the track.
With this, it's the whole package.
So some people watching might be from like the road bike world or the super motorcycle world, and you can get much bigger figures from those bikes than we get in the dirt bike world. But just to give you guys an understanding of how fast this thing's going to be compared to other dirt bikes, Roland, just tell us what we'd expect from like a 125, 254 stroke, 250, 2-stroke, 500.
Yeah. So as a standard Yamaha YZ125 from 2021, you're looking on this dyno around 33 horsepower from a stock bike, 32.5, 33 horsepower. KTM's about 35 horsepower. Once you get into the 252 strokes, and you're looking in the early 40s on this dyno, about 40, 44, 45 from KTM. And the Yamaha SXF 250, pretty similar kind of figures from the YZF, so you're looking around 39.5 to 40 horsepower. A standard 450 is going to be around the 50 horsepower, but built up over a larger rev range. The thing is, at the moment, this is producing 50 horsepower, but it's producing 50 horsepower at 5,000 RPM. Well, the 250.
We don't want.
Yeah, but the thing is, we want 90 horsepower. Well, 80 horsepower will be a good figure, bearing in mind the inertia setting on this dyno. So,
And it's a new engine.
and it's a new engine, which, yeah, bit of an little bit. It's just calculating the torque figure and the RPM of this engine. It is already producing an awful lot of power without an awful lot of revs. The CR500 will be on this dyno 45 horsepower, but that will be done at 2,000 RPM more than we're doing now. So it's a really low, relatively. You can see it's designed to carry half a car and 2 people. You know,
It's got grunt.
It's got grunt. It's got serious grunt. Yeah, it needs a little bit more top.
You can see that when you click it into gear, can't you? Like it
Yeah.
wants to.
Yeah.
You need to have the revs loaded ready when you
Well,
click
it
it
kind
into
of
gear.
stalled and started
Yeah.
itself. It's got so much torque.
So just explain,
I was like, no, don't stall it, please.
explain what we're doing now.
Right, at the moment I've just stuck the sniffer up its exhaust pipe, and it is running a little bit rich on full throttle, so I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. So I'm going to make it a little bit leaner on top. It does feel, it feels on the throttle, I can tell when they're running a bit rich, and it is definitely, it's not stupid rich like it was on your first visit, but there's still some way to go. It's not an engine I'm overly familiar with, or a format. If it was a 125, no. If it was a 125, then it wouldn't matter what make it came from, then I would be able to know straight away, a needle and jetting and so forth, but this is a little bit of a new bank for me.
Now that the bike was running properly again, we began to play with settings and started out on our pursuit for those big numbers. We have a working Megalodon, but there's still progress to be made, as Roland will explain.
It's much better. You've actually got a bike now that will run and so forth, so yeah, you can idle it. It's still a little bit of a time to start, but
Little
once
mate,
it's up and
I
running-
was dripping.
But anyway, bottom line is that my conclusion on it is that the two things to go forward with this machine are, firstly, it needs a bigger or a more efficient or a new radiator.
Yeah.
So the old radiator.
Because at the moment, that's just straight from that old Husselberg.
Yeah. So it needs
Shed find.
either a new or a much improved radiator. She is getting too hot. The other thing that's happening is that the pipe, because start is a Dyno engine from a 500, as a 700. The whole port timing and everything else is slightly out. This pipe is a little bit too short for this engine, so we might do a bit of development and make the pipe a little bit longer.
the front pipe,
Yeah, so, no, the front pipe. The distance from the reverse cone on the Stinger there is too close to the piston, so that needs to be moved away a little bit. If the pipe was longer, that would go like that. Okay, so this, instead of being positive and coming up here, is going like that, and that's down to the length of the exhaust pipe, the design of the pipe, which needs to be changed a little bit. I would see no reason as to why, with the jetting in theirs now, that it wouldn't be reliable on circuit with a decent radiator on it. But to get this bike to run anything like its capacity, we're going to have to do a little bit of the expansion chamber is wrong for it. It's pulling way too hard.
And it's worth saying we did chuck the filter back on there, and immediately it just died, didn't it? Gurgling and
yeah, it just fueled up and it just drew way too much up the emulsion tube. So but no, big improvement. Rome wasn't built in a day. There are some small changes to be made still, but it's moving in the right direction.
Right, so that's a couple of days in Roland's workshop here at Hardcore Racing done, and we've got some valuable information out of the 2 days here on the dyno. We're running about 10 horsepower above the CR500 at the moment, so we're pretty pleased with that. We know what we need to do to get those massive numbers that we're all hoping for, that we're all looking for. I know you guys are. I know I am. We know that there's some work to do on the front pipe to get those numbers up. Obviously, our experiments today showed us that this filter, we're going to have to think about that, because when it's off, the bike's running sweet. When it's on, it's not. The rad, like Roland said, she's running hot, so we need to upgrade that somewhat. But yeah, pretty pumped with what we got out of the first dyno run of the Megalodon. Like I say, it is the first time it's been run in Angus, so it was an experience to say the least, wasn't it, Roland? As you can see from this episode, our build has now become way more complex than we first thought. So if you want to support the project, you can check out the exclusive Megalodon merch. All profits from merch sales are ploughed back into the project to make sure that this bike is as awesome as possible. Okay, so if you've been watching the Megalodon series since the start, you'll know that we haven't uploaded an episode in a while. And that's because during the dyno sessions that you've already seen in this episode, she was running hot. Way too hot, which meant that we couldn't push her to her limits and get the numbers that we really wanted. So we took a break there, we took a pause, and we took out the old rad, which is this scrappy old thing that was the original radiator from the old Hasselberg that we picked up from Dave Clark Racing, and we took that out and decided to get a whole new one made. So for the past few weeks, which is what's been the hold up while we haven't been able to crack on with the project, our man Pete has been on the job from Alifab. This is his company name, isn't it? Pete Dimmock from Alifab has been on the job, and look at this. He's made us a brand new radiator, much bigger, much more efficient, to make sure that the bike doesn't run hot, that she cools efficiently, and that we can really push that beastly motor that we've got to the limits without doing her any damage. So we're going to fit this up. I'll tell you what other modifications we've done as well, and we'll get cracking, get back on the dyno, and get ripping. Okay, so we made some modifications to the bike since our first initial dyno tests. Pete at Alifab's made us that brand spanking new rad and a sexy bit of kit. I hope you agree. And the other big modification we've made is this strange contraption you see here on the rear end of the bike. This is the solution to our airbox conundrum. As you saw in the dyno video, we initially run it with just a filter stuffed in there, and that was just suffocating the bike. So we took that filter off and the bike runs so much better. So we put our minds to it and we've come up with this solution. We've got a big K&N filter over there, but to fit that in and get it all hooked up to the carb, we've had to do this with this pipe in. This is a temporary measure at the moment. We're going to run it here today on the field, make sure everything is running nicely, and then we're going to get this made up properly by a man that makes parts for F1 cars and racing cars. So yeah, it's gonna look pretty tricky when it's all finished. So they're just a couple of the modifications we've made since our initial dyno tests. Let's get ripping. So after my rip around the field, which you saw at the start of this episode, I wanted to give the bike another dyno run to really check the effectiveness of our new mods. Right, so shorts and boots means only one thing. We're back in the workshop for day 3 on the dyno. We made our modifications that I've told you about already. Obviously that's the new rad and this funky new air intake system that it's temporary. We're going to get that made up so it looks factory. if it works on the dyno. So that's why we're here today. We're just going to check these 2 new mods to make sure that we're still getting the numbers that we had last time, maybe even get some bigger ones. So let's get it started. Let it rip.
The length of the air intake is crucial to getting max power. So we used the 3rd dyno session to experiment to ensure that our final air intake was the best it could be before we get it manufactured properly. After these experiments, we now know what direction that we need to go in with our intake system.
Right, so that's day number 3 in Roland's workshop, done and dusted. And what we've been doing today is trying to see if the new rads work, and
They certainly do, yeah. It is very good. Yeah.
So much better than last time, isn't it? We're happy with those new rads. So
yeah.
Ali Fab done a great job there. And then the other thing we was testing today was the air intake system, and we've just been messing about. We've had this temporary setup and we was just messing about to see how efficient that was, and just explain what we've done there today.
So obviously it's going to have to take some kind of trip around, some suspension and some tubing and so forth, so we need to make sure that as it changed shape and changed volumes and so forth, how that would then affect with the engine. And we've ended up actually better than we did today, than we started today, so it's definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah, so we've been doing some scientific experiments, haven't we? Going back and forth. Yeah. I've had to start the bike countless times, and I looked pretty good there at the end, didn't I?
You did.
First kick of that last one. So that was a pain in the arse, to be fair. But we sussed it out. We're thinking we're going to go over to someone tomorrow to try and get that air intake system properly finished up and done. In terms of numbers today, we got the biggest number from the bike that we've had so far, but we know we still got work to do to get the massive numbers that we're all dreaming of. We got 55 out of it today, which I think we're a little bit deflated with. We want these massive numbers, but really, has anyone ever been disappointed with 55 horsepower on a motocross track before? I don't think so. I think that's plenty enough, isn't it?
I think really what we're doing is we're kind of stalling a little bit at the minute because we know we've got to sort out this intake. Yeah. Once the intake system's done, then the big changes are going to start to happen with modifying the exhaust pipe and different reed valves and ignitions and so forth like that. And that's when the big numbers are going to start coming. But we need to have a machine that you can ride properly, that's got a proper intake on it. So that's the focus at the moment.
Yeah, so get the intake sorted, and then we can push forward for those big numbers. Like you say, it's kind of like a trinity, isn't it? 3 things you need to get done: your exhaust pipe, your timing, and your fueling. To get the ultimate horsepower out of the bike. So we've got those things to work on to get those big ass numbers that we know this 700cc motor can throw out. So the start of the journey. Well,
so we do the intake, then it's exhaust and ignition.
So that's wrapping us up for today. If building a 700cc two-stroke was easy, then everyone would be doing it. This project has been way more challenging and complex than we ever imagined. But it's all part of the journey, and I hope you'll agree that it's been a pretty fun ride so far. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty disappointed with the initial dyno numbers. I could have easily bodged some bigger figures, but I didn't want to pull the wool over your eyes like that. We like to be honest around here. We know what's holding us back, and we know how to move forwards. I had heard that 90 bhp was possible with this motor, but with what we're doing with it, I think that if we can eventually achieve somewhere between 75 and 80, we'll be doing pretty damn well. It's been a long, expensive, and at times frustrating journey so far. But my first proper shred on the beast quickly reminded me what this is all about.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm weak at the knees. Genuinely weak at the knees. Oh my God. What a buzz. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's mental. Like, it's like bone shaking. I'm going again. That was insane.
That was my reaction to riding the Megalodon at, let's say, less than optimal performance. Just imagine what it's going to feel like at full power. That's the feeling that we're chasing, and that's what this project is all about. Right, so there we have it, another episode of the Megalodon series done and dusted. It's been quite the journey. I know you guys have been waiting a long time for this episode, but it's not because we haven't been working hard on the bike. We've been putting some long hours here in the workshop and in the edit suite as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're going to continue joining us on the ride, because we sure ain't done yet. We're going to sort this intake out. We're going to sort that exhaust out, and we're going to hit the track and really let the Megalodon feed and get ripping. So make sure to subscribe to see more from the channel, more of the Megalodon, more of the 700cc two-stroke, and be sure as well to remember to check out our sponsors, Muck-Off. I wouldn't have had the confidence to pull the trigger on this mental project without their support, so another massive thank you goes to Muck-Off. Be sure to check them out for any products to clean, lube and protect your bikes. Anyway, my name's Max, this has been 999 Laser. Until next time, I'll see you at the track.